Hey, welcome back to Overhead Athletics. I'm Max Wardell, and today we're going to be talking about rotator cuff tears and exercises for the torn rotator cuff. Now we have to understand there's a lot of different variations in tears in the rotator cuff, a lot of different types of tears, and different way that tears can present themselves. Tears can happen from the inside out, starting at the bottom layer of the rotator cuff. They can start from the outside in, or they can start in the middle of the cuff with degeneration and breakdown over time. Tears can also happen in different areas. So if we look at just a pretty standard shoulder model here, sitting on my body kind of like this, we got the clavicle in the front, we've got the shoulder blade or the scapula in the back, and we have the humerus bone, the upper arm bone. And if I'm standing backwards, it's kind of sitting on me like this. Now we have four muscles of the rotator cuff, one of which gets injured more than any of the others, which is the supraspinatus. It sits in this kind of valley right here, and it comes up underneath this bone and attaches right here. So as it comes under this bone, it kind of dips and dives under there and attaches right over here. And as a result, when the arm moves, it can get pinched. So that can lead to tearing on the top side or the outside moving in of the rotator cuff. And we can also get tears on the underside where it's closer to the joint and it can get pinched in the joint. So we have different types of tears of the rotator cuff. And depending on how those tears manifest will change what we do in terms of exercise. In terms of rotator cuff muscles, however, we have two more on the backside. We have a pretty wide fan-shaped one named the infraspinatus that goes here, and we have another one that moves down to this inferior angle down this way, which is called the teres minor. On the front side, we have one. Remember, this sits on me right here. So we have one coming across the front side, wrapping around the front of the shoulder, known as the subscapularis. Now, these muscles can become damaged over time, particularly starting with that supraspinatus. And generally when we have damage to the supraspinatus, these other muscles are strained excessively, and they often become weak as a result of pain and other things. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through some exercises as well as a stretch so that we can start to regain strength in the shoulder joint as well as regain some range of motion. What we've seen in working with a lot of individuals with rotator cuff tears is that the presentation is very different from individual to individual. So if I have 500 people watching this video, 100 of them are going to present in one way, and then there may be 30 other ways that people may present with rotator cuff tears, and that means how they do the exercises and their focus of the exercise has to be a little different. One of the most important things to do is make sure the shoulder is as stable as possible, and the way in which we can start to train that is to train the back or the posterior aspect of the rotator cuff, the part that's not torn. We have to do this with pain-free motion, and one of the best exercises we can do is external rotation in an athletic stance. Now, the most important part of this exercise is making sure that it's pure rotation and no deviation of the humerus in any direction. So I bring the elbow forward, out in front of my body, and a little bit out to the side. Now, from this position, I'm going to turn out, but I don't want any deviation of the elbow. So I turn out, nice pure rotation, right out until it's straight out in front of me. And then I'm back in. It's a perfect rotation. I keep 90-degree angle at the elbow, and I'm coming out. Now, if you watch this, I'm never coming way out here. I'm not deviating my elbow. I'm not doing this. I'm not moving my body. My body stays still, and I come out to that straightforward position right at 90 degrees. Now, if I've hit that for multiple sets, and generally recommend with all of these to do 2 to 3 sets, 8 to 15 reps. We find ourselves doing 3 sets of 10 quite a bit. In this exercise, I've got the band at the same attachment. I'm going to face kind of on a 30-degree angle off this way. So I'm not straight with the band, a little bit of an angle. And from here, I have the thumb up. If you go thumb down, you'd close down the space inside of the shoulder, and that's something you may want to do later on to get the shoulder strong. But initially, we want to give that shoulder as much space as we can so the thumb goes up. Now I'm going to reach on a 15-degree angle or so out in front of my body. And I may just do it right here. And I may just give reps right here, 20, 30, whatever it takes to start to get some fatigue. Or if I can tolerate it and I don't have pain, I can come up to shoulder height. Now, I don't need to go really high here, and I shouldn't be pushing through pain at all. I have to do it in a pain-free range, and remember, now we're strengthening that muscle that's actually encountered some damage and has got a little bit of tearing or fraying in it. And so I have to do it where the muscle can tolerate the load. That may be here, that may be there, wherever that pain-free arc of motion is. And once I've done that for a few, I'm going to add a little component, which is a reach. So I'm reaching out as far as I can. Reaching out as far as I can. Now take note, I don't have any shrugging at the shoulder. So when I go, I'm not shrugging up. So it's a nice posture on a 45-degree angle at the most, if that's comfortable. 15 degrees is probably more optimal. Not way back here. That's going to cause some exacerbation for a lot of you guys watching the video. Now, if I've gotten my sets in there, I fatigued a little bit there. Now I want to work one of the muscles that controls the shoulder blade. So I get into a nice position here. I'm going to push my chest away from, and this can be a countertop, this can be a pole, whatever this is, something sturdy. I push my chest away, nice flat back, core is activated, and from there, all I do is little lift-offs. Hold for 5 seconds, keep pushing my chest away, so it's push the chest out, round the back a little bit, and then switch. No rotation of the body. And I like to do this bilaterally, so both arms. And I should feel a little bit of burning on the rib cage underneath the armpit here, if I'm doing it properly. Pushing as far away as possible. What I see done wrong a lot of times with these exercises, people aren't maintaining strict technique and they're not going to the limit of their range of motion. Now, after we've done some of these exercises, and after we've gotten a little bit of strengthening out this way, what I like to do is regain some motion of the shoulder. Now, I want to regain this motion here, this internal rotation this way, where the arms are coming down. And a lot of times what we see in our rotator cuff tears is something approximating this, where one arm can get very far and this one can't go at all. So what I do is I do a little quarter turn. Now, my chest is pointed up on an angle this way. I'm not all the way rolled forward, and this is our sleeper stretch. Find a position that's comfortable for the humerus, comfortable for the shoulder. I keep my shoulder down towards the floor this way and down towards my feet that way. So I'm doing that. So I'm not letting it come up to my shoulder. I'm doing this. Now, preferably, I have something under the head. And then I take 2 fingers, and it's a 2-finger force on the back of the wrist, letting it rotate down. And I just hold that for 2 minutes every day. The exercises, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, minimum. The stretch, at least 5 or 6 days a week for 2 minutes. I like to tell people 2 minutes twice a day, 5 to 6 days a week. Now, once you've done that and you've stretched the shoulder out, you've worked on strengthening, it's really important to think about where you're at functionally and how you tolerated the exercise. If you get really sore and achy, it tells you overdid it. You got to back off a little bit. And that's really the key, because these exercises have to be modified to the individual. They can't be just done in a blanket fashion for everybody. You have to modify them based on how well you can do different exercises and how well you can tolerate them. And if you're somebody that only has range of motion to here, you probably need to go see your orthopedic surgeon, because that's going to be a surgical case. If you have a fully torn, full thickness tear of the rotator cuff, we can make some functional improvements and improve strength of some of the other muscles around, but we're not going to fix the underlying issue, which is the tear. Partial tears seem to do a lot better with physical therapy, and those are generally people that can lift the arm, but maybe with some pain, pinching, tenderness, those sorts of things. So I suggest that everybody with a rotator cuff tear get checked out by their orthopedic physical therapist who works with a lot of shoulder athletes, who works with a lot of shoulder patients. And anybody who's not seeing the progress they want to see, go see their orthopedic surgeon and investigate all the options that you have at your disposal. But in terms of exercise, these are what we like to do early on in our care for torn rotator cuff, and these are like what we like to progress into more advanced variations later on. So if you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss any of our future content, because we're going to be putting out a lot of videos. We're putting out videos twice a week, and you don't want to miss any of that. And we will see you guys in the next video.